A very good day to all of you and welcome back. Today we will start discussing Indian English literature. First of all, Indian English literature, a historical overview. The entry of English, a historical overview. Introduction of the English language in India. The introduction of English language in India can be traced back to the early 17th century with the establishment of the East India Company. However, English education was institutionalized in 1835 through Lord Macaulay's famous Minute on Education, which advocated for creating a class of Indians who would act as intermediaries between the British and the native population. This marked the beginning of formal English education in India and laid the foundation for Indian Writing in English, IWE. The Charter Act of 1813 first made provisions for promoting European literature and sciences in India, paving the way for English as a medium of higher education. The establishment of universities in Calcutta, Bombay and Madras in 1857 further consolidated English as the language of intellectual and literary expression. English became not only a tool of administration but also a vehicle of modern thought, enabling educated Indians to engage with global philosophical and political ideas. Colonialism, historical context for the rise of Indian writing in English. The advent of British colonial rule had a profound impact on Indian literature. The British introduced the Western literary forms such as the novel, essay and a drama to India. Writers such as Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, Rabindranath Tagore, and later Mulkraj Anand and R.K. Narayan blended Indian themes with English literary techniques, creating a unique form of expression. Early English-educated Indians began to reinterpret Indian identity through the lens of colonial modernity, producing hybrid narratives. Missionary schools and colleges also became centers of English literary learning, fostering a new intelligentsia that could write in English with native sensibilities. The influence of Western realism and humanism led Indian writers to experiment with new narrative forms, giving rise to a distinctly Indian English literary voice. Indian Renaissance socio-cultural movements. The 19th century saw an Indian Renaissance characterized by social religious reform movements led by figures like Rajaram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar and Swami Vivekananda. These movements sought to eradicate social evils like sati, untouchability and child marriage, while promoting women's education and rationalist thought. The period saw a surge in English literary works that reflected these reforms, with writers using literature to critique and reform society. English-educated reformers began to bridge tradition and modernity, blending Indian spirituality with Western rationalism. Women writers such as Toru Dutt and Sarojini Naidu began to emerge, using English as medium of empowerment and self-expression. The period also gave rise to periodicals and journals that promoted reformist writing and critical discussions on modern Indian identity. The rise of Indian nationalism. The Indian freedom struggle gave rise to a distinct nationalist literature, Writers like Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, and Sarojini Naidu used English to articulate the aspirations of an independent India. Novels such as Rajarau's Kantapura and Mulk Rajanan's Untouchable address the issues of caste, colonial oppression, and resistance. Literature became a weapon of resistance, giving voice to the oppressed and mobilizing nationalist consciousness. The emergence of newspapers and political essays in English helped spread anti-colonial sentiments and unite educated Indians across regions. Writers also began to reinterpret Indian mythology and folklore to symbolically represent the fight for freedom and identity. Nehruvian socialism and secularism. Post-independence, Nehru's vision of a socialist and secular India influenced their literature. Writers like R.K. Narayan and Nayanthara Sehgal explored themes of political change, modernization, and cultural conflicts in their works. Literature during this period depicted the challenges of nation building, the role of democracy, and the secular ethos of India. The focus shifted from colonial oppression to internal challenges such as poverty, corruption, and inequality. There was a realistic portrayal of the common man, his struggles in a rapidly changing society, and his confrontation with a bureaucracy and a modernization. This period also saw the emergence of women's voices in literature, highlighting gender inequality, individual freedom, and a reform within the new republic. Crisis in Indian democracy. From the emergency of 1975 to socio-political unrest, Indian English literature began reflecting the struggles within Indian democracy. Writers such as Salman Rushdie in his work Midnight's Children and Washington Mystery in a Fine Balance addressed the themes of political instability, corruption, and social injustice. The disillusionment with the state apparatus became a recurring motif. The rise of postmodern and post-colonial narratives brought in irony, fragmentation, and magical realism to depict the chaos of modern India. Literature began engaging with the issues of identity politics, including caste, gender, and regional autonomy. The period also marked the global recognition of Indian English writing, with authors like Rushdie, Arundhati Roy, and Amitav Ghosh gaining international acclaim.